Hello, my fellow 86ers. So this is going to be one of the more nerdier videos, I guess you can say, as it pertains to boxing history, because we're going to be talking about how to calculate no decisions and no contests on BoxRec. So BoxRec, as you all know, is the most popular boxing platform. I believe it's number one if you look up boxing on one of those sites like SimilarWeb or something of that nature. BoxRec will populate as the number one site, I think, because a lot of people visit to look at the records. There are others out there, some with even deeper records to include exhibitions and stuff, such as the Cyber Boxing Zone. But that being said, as far as modern boxing and even tapping into the history, BoxRec is probably the number one platform that people choose to use whenever they're going to look up records. Now, this video pertains to how you calculate no decisions and no contests. So if you ever wondered how some of these records seem to be off when you actually click on a fighter within BoxRec, then this covers that. Now, I want to shout out to Xavier Boxing Nerd, who actually put me on game a couple of years back. And I was still essentially trying to go through the more manual process with no automation tied to it. And he mentioned such. With that in mind, I ended up just creating a spreadsheet, which it is on the 86 Boxing website. You can download it if you are into this and want to know more about calculating these BoxRec records for some of these older fighters who had a ton of no decision bouts. Then this is perfect for you. It's in Excel. You're looking at it right here, but it's essentially pre-popular or pre-automated, at least with the different formulas to allow for you to go through that process of calculating records. So that's what I intend to show you here today. And again, if you want this, you can go by the 86 Boxing website and it will be at the bottom here for you to actually download. Just check out the website. Let me know what you think. All right. So when calculating the boxer records, this is taking into account all fights that they were tied to, of course, that we know from an official standpoint. Of course, there are many incomplete records for a lot of the older fighters. That being said, for what we do understand and know of, at least from a completion standpoint, right? So in order to best show you this, I'm going to use a fighter who has a lot of no decision bouts, and that is Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. So I've already searched him up. You can see there, Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. You look at him as a pro, you look at his record, you see 147, 17, and 24, which is interesting. That career spanning from 1896 to 1912. Lengthy career, ton of fight. Just look at that sheer amount right there. Again, 147, 17, and 24. So some of the actual slots here, columns, rows that you'll be working from primarily are going to be the win, loss, draw, and KOs column. And I'll show you exactly how that's going to go. For these items in red, like the ND, the NC, and this equals LTR, which stands for last total record. So for whatever you see in red, you don't have to do anything with it. It's already pre-populated and formulated. So they're going to automatically adjust based on these inputs that you make to these sections in black, generally just with the win, loss, draw, KOs column. And of course, bouts, then last total record. Now you're probably wondering what that means. Well, I'm going to show you this by virtue of Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. All right. So click on Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, who had, 147 wins. Wait, where did all of those go? You see a record here of 96 victories, 6 losses, and 14 draws. So this is the era of no decisions. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, I guess you can say. No decisions. These were generally prearranged, or there would be certain stipulations for fights where if you did not knock out the opponent, then a decision could not be rendered. So it would be left to the actual newspaper writers, their journalists, etc., that were there on site to share their thoughts and opinions on the actual contest. And usually majority wins. So if you had the majority of the newspapers or whatnot, pinned in favor of a particular fighter, and that is generally the fighter who was regarded as having won the contest. So there were also stipulations surrounding title fights of a similar nature. In general, there would be just prearranged draws, like hey, you're going to fight and it's going to be a draw, regardless of who wins or what ultimately was the actual verdict from a viewership standpoint. So that's where you may see some records where there are draws listed. And if you look at the contents and details of the fight from a research perspective, one fighter could have won 9 of 10 rounds, yet it would still be rendered a draw. So it's somewhat controversial for some. I do recognize them. Many do recognize them. Usually the newspaper writers, they were pretty spot on. They were on point. It's like journalism from that time compared to today. You know, journalists took their job serious, so they called it how they saw it. And therefore, that's what you ended up with. So with Philadelphia Jack O'Brien, a guy, as I mentioned, we saw previously, there were 147 wins that were listed under this record. But when you actually click on BoxRec on his actual profile, you don't see those. Now, here are the key things to think about. The knockouts are going to factor in. So that's already a sign right there that, okay, yeah, there are going to be some numbers that aren't included or infused just based on the knockouts as it relates to the total record. Another key piece, a key area you want to look at is bouts. So thinking about it from that standpoint, bouts is a key area that you're going to look at. And then, of course, the Box Pro, essentially their total number of bouts, or the last total record is what I call it, where you see the 192. So if you look at his last total record, you'll see that it ended with 192 bouts having been completed. Now we're going to go to the calculator here. So this is where we can test out the actual use of this. So 92 victories here for Philadelphia Jack O'Brien. I'm simply going to go there to my keyboard and type in 92. So we have 92. You can already see a change here. You see it across the board there. We see in the no contest slot, we have 92 just based on one ad. Then total BoxRec added, we have 92. And then we have no contest, 92. But that's just because we've only filled out one slot. All right, we're going to look at the losses. So he has 6 losses. 3 of those were by knockout, by the way. Just think about that. 192 fights, only 3 via knockout as far as his losses. He's only knocked out 3 times. Amazing chin when you really look at it. So we're going to put 6 there as far as those losses. We can see another change there, okay? We're starting to see some things divvy up. And I wanted to note that I do have, like, overall KO percentage, KO win percentage. This is the percentage of wins or the percentage of knockouts as far as their victories or how many wins they have, just solely based on the wins. The overall being just their total fights in general. And then I have their overall win percentage based on their total amount of fights or that last total record. And then we're going to have the win percentage less in these no contest. So this will be taking those out of the picture. And so we'll see the adjustments made there. All right, we're going to go look at draws. He had 14 draws as we initially noted. So just going to plug in 14 there. Now, if we could see some things are starting to shape up. We're seeing 0 in the no decisions, and we're seeing negative 112 in the no contest. Yeah, something's not adding up, right? I think that's where, as we continue to complete this, then we'll start to see why and where those come in. So 55, that is the number of knockouts that Philadelphia Jack O'Brien had in his career. Now, that's a decent number of knockouts. That being said, in 192 fights, not a high percentage, but certainly worthwhile in some sense right there. As you can see, that made an adjustment there to this overall KO percentage here, as well as the KO percentage in wins. So about 60% right now based on his wins. And 49%, that's because it's going to factor in everything, right? And the official win percentage hasn't been calculated yet. So, all right. So here is where you're going to move to the left to fill out the bouts in what I call the last total records, as mentioned, or last total record. All right. So as far as bouts, and this is what is going to be listed as far as what you see here. So 116 bouts. That is what's listed as official bouts. And that is without the no decisions. So the official bouts, no, without the no decisions, that is going to be 116. I plug that in. All right, we're seeing some things shape up here. We're seeing some things shape up. So we have negative 116 in the no decision. We already have the no contest calculated at 4. So we know that 4 of those bouts were ruled or changed to no contest at some point. So this is where the last total record comes into the fold. That's what I call it. So you look here at the bottom, it's usually under this ad. So 192. And so once I plug that in, 192, bam, that gives us our total calculation from an overall standpoint. So when we're looking at this, we know that as far as official bouts, this is minus the no decisions. Philadelphia Jack O'Brien had 116. His last total record, that's when you take into account the no decisions, is 192. So 192 in total with the no decisions included. Now, here in the red, we have no decisions. That's ultimately 76, which if you look at the difference between the 192 and 116, that's where that's going to come from. And then, of course, the BoxRec added. So this 112 here, what I list as total BoxRec added, this 112 is taking out the 4 no contests. So these are already formulated in for you. The 4 no contests are taken out, which is right down here as well. The no contest, that is 4. So those will automatically be calculated. Of course, his record, 92 victories, 6 losses, 14 draws with 55 knockouts. 76 additional bouts took place that were no decision bouts. So that means no knockout took place. But these were bouts that were competed. Could have been 4 rounds, 6 rounds, could have been 20 rounds. Who knows? You just have to look through the record to understand. But that's 76 additional bouts that aren't included in that official record when you look at it at face value. Then, of course, the 4 no contest. Now, overall KO percentage, as mentioned, that's taken into account everything to include the no decisions and no contest. So with that, that drops his KO percentage to 29%, which isn't very high just overall, but you got to think about it. No decisions there. His KO percentage in wins, so of those 92 victories, that with those 55s, the division come there, those 55 knockouts, that's where you see the 60%. And his official win percentage, and this is calculated, of course, with the no decisions and everything taken into account, that's 79%. And then the win percentage less in these, this is essentially the win percentage just calculating these items here that we spoke of, which are the 92 official wins, 6 losses, 14 draws with 15 knockout, 82% win percentage, which is a very high win percentage. Even with that amount of fights, you're talking 100 plus fights there. So this, in terms of this depiction here, these two cells actually represent the same as the last total record. So that should be equalized. So you don't have to mess with this on the right, as mentioned, any of the things in red. But when you plug this in, when you plug this number in here, it should equal. It's automatically calculated. It should all equal 192 for the last total record. You see, if I put like 178, that throws some things off. That throws some things off just from an overall perspective. So yeah, it has to. You see, it removes some of the no decisions. So it needs to equal out as far as that. And of course, let me revert back there. If you have something wrong in the actual win column or whatever, it's going to be the same thing. Something is going to be thrown off. So you have to make sure you have the right record there just from an overall standpoint. But generally, this is going to be the thing that gives you your full calculation. And we'll do one more 99. There you see that throws things off, and the no contests are kind of all out of sort. But essentially, it's all set to plug and play. As long as you have these items correct that are in black, then you will generally get an understanding of what a fighter's true record is, along with the no decisions, and you can do with that information whatever you like. But again, I mentioned this would be sort of for some of those that are really interested in the history, diving into the weeds on the analytical side, nerdier, I guess you could say. And I'm one of those for sure, self-proclaimed, and I'll take that designation. But essentially, this could be extended even more. I have some other things that I've done in Excel to really tie it more into not just the records, but sort of predictive analysis, things of that nature. Maybe I'll expand upon those and share some of that stuff here in the future. But in the meantime, this is what it is. As mentioned, you can head over to 86boxing.com. You can sign up for the Jack Dillon autograph book giveaway by Mark Allen Baker, historian extraordinaire in the sport of boxing, one of the top contributors in this sport right here, especially as it pertains to the history. So you can enter the giveaway, but also you can scroll down to the bottom and you can download this no decision, no contest calculator for your own use. And you can go in there and kind of plug and play, or you can do it your way, write it down manually, whatever works for you. But either way, hey, we appreciate you stopping by, showing some love. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on those notifications, share, whatever it may be, because it will bring you more and more content as time goes on. So cheers to y'all. Have a good rest of your day.